Ever notice how the older you get, the less black and white the world seems? The people who once looked evil or idiotic now just look a little scared, a little lost, maybe even just human. That moment when you realize that fear and anxiety, not malice, drive most bad behavior, is often the quiet beginning of emotional maturity. Today, let's take a journey together into the real truths of growing up. Not the kind where you just get a job, pay bills, or buy a car, but the deep inner growth that makes life gentler, richer, and, in many ways, far more interesting. Because here's the truth. Growing up is messy, humbling, and, if we're lucky, beautifully transforming. 1. Seeing beyond good and bad people. One of the first signs of emotional maturity is when you stop labeling people as villains or fools. Remember those times you thought someone was just being rude, selfish, or plain dumb? It's so easy to think that way when we only see surface behavior. But most people's unpleasantness comes not from cruelty, but fear, insecurity, or emotional overload. Think about that coworker who snaps at you in meetings. Maybe it's not because they hate you, but because they're terrified of looking incompetent. Or that relative who always criticizes your choices. What if that's their own anxiety talking, not judgment? This shift in perception doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you respond with understanding rather than bitterness. You begin to drop that heavy cloak of self-righteousness and see the world not as a stage full of idiots and monsters, but one where everyone, yourself included, is trying to cope. It's like turning the contrast down on life. The extremes fade, the gray tones appear, and suddenly everything feels more real. 2. Communication. The lost art of actually saying what you mean. Here's a hard truth. Nobody can read your mind. Your thoughts, intentions, and feelings, no matter how obvious they seem to you, don't naturally transmit to others. You might think your partner should just know why you're upset, but until you express it calmly and clearly, they're flying blind. Learning to communicate, really communicate, is a major emotional milestone. It means resisting the urge to sulk, dropping the silent treatments, and replacing vague hints with honest words. It's admitting, hey, I felt hurt when you said that, instead of simmering in resentment for days. Simple, sure. Easy? Never. But it changes everything. 3. The courage to say, I was wrong. Here's something that might sting a bit. Maturity means realizing that you, too, can be wrong. It means saying, I messed up and I'm sorry, even when your pride screams otherwise. That first apology might feel like jumping off a cliff, but once you do it, you realize you survive and actually feel lighter. Apologizing isn't about losing. It's about having the courage to put the relationship above your ego. 4. Confidence from humility. True confidence doesn't come from thinking you're the best. It comes from realizing no one really is. Everyone's faking it a little. Everyone's scared inside. And everyone's trying to figure things out. It's oddly comforting, right? Once that clicks, life becomes more forgiving. You stop comparing yourself so harshly and start cheering yourself and others on instead. As one philosopher once said, we're all amateurs at being human. 5. Forgiving your parents. This one's big. At some point, most of us realize that our parents, those mysterious, all-powerful beings of childhood, were actually just flawed, frightened humans doing their best. It's not about excusing every mistake, but about seeing the pain beneath it. They were tired, overwhelmed, maybe broken in their own ways. That realization doesn't erase your wounds, but it transforms your anger into something softer, like compassion. When you forgive them, it's not necessarily for their sake, but for your own peace. 6. The secret power of small things. Ever notice how a simple thing like skipping breakfast or sleeping too little can wreck your mood for the whole day? Emotional maturity means realizing that our mental state is fragile, hugely influenced by small, everyday things. Your blood sugar drops, your patience vanishes, you're stressed, and suddenly everyone seems unbearable. So before tackling deep life issues or heated arguments, check the basics. Is everyone fed, rested, calm? It's not dramatic, but it's astonishingly effective. Here's a golden rule. Never discuss big issues when anyone is hungry, drunk, or stressed. 90% of arguments could be avoided this way.
7. Letting go of sulking and silent grudges. When someone hurts you, it's tempting to stew on it. Weeks of silent punishment, icy stares, passive-aggressive sighs. But what do we really gain from that? Nothing but bitterness. A mature person stops playing emotional chess. If someone hurts you, you say it. You give them a chance to understand. If they do, you forgive them. And if they don't, you still forgive them for your own freedom. Because in the grand scheme of things, we'll all be gone soon. Who has time for grudges? 8. Goodbye perfection, hello good enough. We grow up thinking the goal is perfection. Perfect love, perfect job, perfect life. But perfection doesn't exist. It's a fantasy that robs us of joy. Donald Winnicott, a psychoanalyst, coined the term good enough. The idea is simple. Life doesn't need to be flawless to be fulfilling. Your partner might be annoying sometimes, your career might zigzag, your home might be a bit messy, but that's okay. Good enough is not settling, it's wisdom. It's gratitude with both eyes open. 9. When pessimism becomes a superpower. Sounds strange, right? But realistic pessimism actually makes you calmer and happier. When you expect that life will sometimes disappoint you, you stop being shocked every time it does. This doesn't mean you stop dreaming, it means you stop expecting the world to owe you constant happiness. You become adaptable, forgiving, steady. The optimist sees only light and gets crushed when darkness comes. The mature realist walks with both, a candle in hand, knowing the night is long, but still worth walking through. 10. Weakness and strength, two sides of the same coin. Here's another big aha moment. There's no strength without a matching flaw. That stubborn person, they might also be the most loyal. That scatterbrained friend, probably the most creative soul you know. The perfectionist, the one who gets things done on time. Maturity is seeing people and yourself in full color rather than in extreme shades. You stop nitpicking and start appreciating the weird, beautiful balance that makes us human. 11. Falling in love. Wiser, but slower. Remember when you were younger, how easy it was to fall head over heels with someone? The rush, the highs, the daydreams? Maturity slows that down. You still fall in love, but with eyes open this time. You know now that everyone comes with their quirks, insecurities, and annoying habits. You no longer believe in the perfect one. Instead, you value loyalty, kindness, and understanding. Crushes fade, companionship endures. 12. Looking in the mirror, realizing you're also hard to live with. It's humbling when you finally admit you're not exactly easy either. Maybe you leave too many dishes, need too much reassurance, or get defensive too easily. Owning your own flaws doesn't make you weak. It makes you lovable. It sets others free from walking on eggshells around you and builds genuine trust. 13. Becoming your own friend. Some people spend years being kind to others, but cruel to themselves. Part of maturity is learning self-forgiveness and knowing that beating yourself up changes nothing. You're allowed to be human, to screw up, to not have it all figured out. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Imagine you're comforting a dear friend who messed up. Now give yourself that same compassion. 14. Making peace with the child inside. No matter how grown up we get, there's always a little kid inside, anxious, lonely, vulnerable. Instead of suppressing it, maturity means learning to care for that child. When you're triggered, disappointed, or scared, it's often that little inner version of you crying out. So don't shame it, listen, comfort it, and move forward. Real adults know how to parent themselves. 15. Finding joy in the small stuff. Here's something most mature people quietly understand. Happiness isn't a permanent state, it's a bunch of small, fleeting moments strung together. A good coffee, sunlight through the window, a calm evening with no drama. Chasing forever happiness will exhaust you, but learning to spot tiny moments of peace, that's lasting joy.
16. Letting go of image and loving simplicity. We spend so much of our early lives trying to control how others see us. We filter, pretend, posture, all for approval. Then you reach a point where it just doesn't matter as much. You realize that most people are too busy worrying about themselves to care what you're doing. So you stop performing and start living. You rely less on fame, validation, or clout, and more on love, authenticity, and quiet confidence. 17. Feedback doesn't kill you. Once upon a time, criticism felt like an attack. Now it feels like information. Maturity means you can listen, reflect, and even benefit from critique without melting down or lashing out. Sure, not all feedback is right, but some of it might actually help you grow. Growth feels uncomfortable, but so does staying stuck. 18. The art of perspective. Life looks very different when you zoom out. The problems that felt unbearable yesterday shrink when seen from a wider angle. Taking a walk in nature, stargazing, spending time with pets, these remind you that your world isn't the whole world. Maturity is knowing when to step back, breathe, and realize that not everything deserves a reaction. 19. Knowing your own emotional patterns. Our past secretly shapes how we react to the present. Maybe rejection triggers you because of childhood experiences. Maybe you overanalyze because you once felt unseen. Recognizing your patterns means you can pause and ask, is this reaction about now or about then? That pause, that awareness, changes everything. 20. The real definition of friendship. When we mature, we realize friendship isn't about who you can party with, it's about who you can share your truth with. True friends don't just celebrate your wins, they hold space for your fears, mistakes, and heartbreaks. When you open up about what truly bothers you, you create a bridge that makes others feel less alone. Because deep down, we're all carrying something, and connection starts with honesty. Questions to reflect on. 1. Why do you think it's easier to assume people are mean or stupid rather than scared? 2. How often do you communicate your feelings clearly instead of expecting others to guess? 3. When was the last time you apologized, not because you had to, but because it felt right? 4. What imperfections in your life might actually be good enough? 5. Have you noticed how small things like sleep or blood sugar affect your relationships? 6. Which of your weaknesses could also be your hidden strength? 7. What's one moment of small, quiet joy you can celebrate today? Each of these questions is a doorway to more empathy, patience, and peace. Conclusion. Growing up, emotionally speaking, isn't about hardening up or becoming perfect. It's about softening, realizing that people are broken, including you, and loving them anyway. You stop chasing the illusion of a flawless life and begin appreciating the beautifully imperfect one you already have. And maybe, just maybe, that's what real wisdom is. Knowing that we're all scared, flawed, and occasionally foolish, but still showing up, still caring, still trying. Because in the end, being human is not about having it all together. It's about growing together, forgiving often, and finding peace in the small, quiet moments along the way.